The movie kicks off with John Wick crashing his car into a wall. He emerges from the wreckage bloodied and injured. He applies pressure to a wound in his stomach and watches a video of his late wife Helen on the beach before collapsing to the ground. A few days earlier, on a cloudy day, John wakes up and starts remembering his times with Helen. He thinks about a dinner they had together and the sad moment when she fell into his arms. Then we see him at the hospital with Helen, kissing her forehead before the doctor leaves. John, his heart broken, is holding his wife's necklace. We then learn that Helen was sick with a disease that ended up taking her life. John jumps into his car and goes to attend the funeral. After some time, everyone has left the grave, but John is the only one left standing. A man watches him from a distance, and after the service, an old friend named Marcus approaches him and offers his condolences, checking in on him as a good friend would. The two engage in a brief conversation before Marcus bids him farewell and departs. After the funeral, John goes back home and starts tidying up. He hears the doorbell ring and finds a delivery lady with a package. She gives him the box, which has a little beagle inside. When he opens it, he finds a note from his late wife, Helen. In the note, she says she's accepted her destiny and wants John to find happiness and love again, starting with this puppy. John gets very emotional reading the letter and begins crying. He takes the puppy from the box and sees the collar decorated with flowers, which makes him think that Helen named the dog Daisy. Later, he gently picks up the puppy from his bed and gently places her on the floor. On the following day, John is awakened by the dog climbing onto his bed and follows him everywhere around the house. He pours cornflakes for the dog and himself and decides to buy proper food for the puppy and takes her cruising in his vintage 1969 Ford Mustang Mach 1. During a pit stop for gas, John is approached by Yosef Tarasov and two other mobsters. Yosef admires John's car and inquires about its price, to which John responds that it's not for sale. Yosef insults him in Russian, saying everything has a price. John then says, "Not this," in fluent Russian, enraging Yosef until one of his companions restrains him, leaving John to drive away carefree. Later in the day, John heads to an abandoned construction site and begins driving his car recklessly. Drifting to frustration, he goes round and round, narrowly avoiding hitting some trucks before eventually stopping. Later on, he jumps into bed and sleeps. During the night, Daisy needs to go outside to relieve herself, so he takes her downstairs. Two shadowy figures then confront him, and a third person hits him over the head with a bat. As John lies on the ground, the men attack Daisy and one of them kills her. They demand John's car keys, and after finding them, the man who whacked him takes off his mask, revealing himself to be Yosef. He swears at John and knocks him out cold. After waking up, John finds his lifeless pet and lays beside it. He then proceeds to bury the dog and cleans up the mess in his home as memories of his wife and the brutal attack from the previous night continue to haunt him. Meanwhile, Yosef drives John's Mustang to Aurelio's store, where he demands clean papers and a new number plate for the car. However, Aurelio recognizes the vehicle and demands to know where Yosef got it from. He brags about stealing the car, and Aurelio orders him to leave the shop immediately, but Yosef responds with arrogance, claiming that they own him. Aurelio shuts him up, stating that he works with his father, and whacks him. One of the henchmen pulls out a gun, but the other stops him from shooting. Yosef then insults Aurelio and threatens to take his business elsewhere. Later, John stops by the shop and inquires about the car. Aurelio replies that the car was here and that Yosef is Vigo's son. Later on, Vigo calls Aurelio and asks exactly why he struck his son. Aurelio just replies. In response, Vigo just says, Vigo seems worried and goes to his penthouse and tells his henchman that he wants to see his son. In the meantime, John enters his basement with a sledgehammer and begins smashing the floor open. It is revealed to be an arsenal of weapons and gold coins. To resolve the issue, Vigo visits Yosef at his residence. Initially, he compliments him on his stylish jacket, but then he punches him in the stomach to tell him that he messed up. Despite his henchman's request to leave, Vigo insists he stays. He then informs Yosef that John Wick, formerly known as Baba Yaga or the Boogeyman, used to be associated with him until he retired to marry Helen. Vigo recounts an incident where he witnessed John kill 3 men in a bar using only a pencil. He then reveals that when John decided to retire, he was assigned an impossible task that involved executing several high-profile assassinations within a short period. To everyone's surprise, John somehow accomplished the impossible task, which was instrumental in establishing the Tarasov Empire. Yosef declares that he can handle the situation and complete the task, but Vigo warns him that John will come for him and he cannot escape his fate. Vigo then attempts to make amends by calling John, but he hangs up, indicating that they are in some big trouble. That night, John gets locked and loaded, knowing that Vigo has dispatched a squad of assassins to his house. However, they quickly realize their mistake of taking the boogeyman on face-to-face. John swiftly neutralizes each and every opponent without hesitation or difficulty. He engages in a fierce combat with a few assailants before dealing a fatal blow to one of them. Turns out Vigo sent 12 assassins, but that is no problem at all, as he blasts his way through each one of them. After the combat has finished, a police officer arrives at the front door and knocks. John recognizes the officer by name and asks if there has been a noise complaint. The officer confirms and inquires if John has returned back to the game, alluding to the lifeless body visible behind him. John says he's just cleaning up, and the officer simply walks away. To handle the aftermath and dispose of the deceased, John contacts an underworld cleanup crew. It's apparent that they understand this won't be their last time helping him. Meanwhile, Vigo approaches John's acquaintance Marcus and offers him a lucrative $2 million contract to assassinate John. Vigo also instructs his assistant Avi to advertise the job opening to other interested parties. Marcus gladly accepts the offer. John decides to make his way to the New York Continental Hotel, which exclusively caters to the criminal underworld. All Continental hotels strictly prohibit any assassinations on its premises. Among the familiar faces, John recognizes Perkins and Chiron. He greets his friend and books a room with a currency the assassins use. We are then introduced to the hotel's manager, Winston. When John inquires about Yosef's whereabouts, Winston informs him that Yosef can be found at a nightclub called Red Circle. John immediately makes his way to the club where Yosef and his friends were enjoying themselves. He then bumps into an old acquaintance of his and suggests that the man take the day off, which he gracefully accepts. Inside the club, Yosef is hanging out in the bathhouse. Suddenly, John appears on the club's lower level, killing one of Yosef's associates. Upon spotting John, Yosef flees for his life. John begins shooting at the remaining hitmen, and even though he managed to take out all of his targets, Yosef seems to have made a lucky escape. Yosef then calls his man Victor, only to hear the Baba Yaga on the other side taunting him. John eventually returns to the Continental Hotel and tells Chiron he needs a medic in his room. As the medic takes care of the injury to his stomach, the doc warns him that he needs to take it easy to avoid tearing his sutures. John, however, doesn't understand the meaning of easy. Later that night, Marcus ascends to the rooftop of a building across the street and sets up his sniper rifle. He spots John, who is sleeping, but he also observes someone entering through the mirror and fires a warning shot at John. Perkins then starts shooting at him, but he narrowly dodges her attacks. Turns out Vigo is offering $4 million to break the Continental's rules and kill John. He engages in a struggle with Perkins and eventually puts her in a headlock, proposing that he would show her mercy in exchange for useful intel. Perkins discloses that Vigo keeps most of his riches in a church basement and says the location. He renders her unconscious and immediately leaves her with Harry in exchange for a gold coin. Unbeknownst to Harry, Perkins has dislocated her thumb and is slipping away. She manages to escape and beats him in a fight, to which she puts a pillow on his head and shoots through it. John then visits Vigo's hidden stockpile of goodies inside the chapel. He takes out a gun, shoots the priest, and proceeds to kill every man that challenges him. He compels the priest to lead him to the vault or die. He is then taken to the vault room and unlocks the gate. John dismisses the ladies in the vault and sets fire to the entire structure, causing Vigo to lose his fortune. He goes outside to camp on top of a building next to the chapel. He spots Vigo and his main crew enter the premises. A firefight then ensues, with John going toe-to-toe with Vigo's men. He manages to take out the most of them, until one assailant jumps into an SUV, and as John reloads and takes out one more enemy, he is clobbered and lands on the ground. Vigo takes advantage of this opportunity to apprehend John. Upon waking up, Vigo questions why he is seeking vengeance over a car and a dog. John reveals that Yosef stole the life of his dog, which was a gift from his late wife, and warns Vigo that he can either hand over Yosef or die with him, but Vigo leaves him to his thugs, who begin to kill him. But luckily, Marcus shoots one of the hitmen, giving John an opening to take out the other. John then runs out into the street, and with Vigo's escape vehicle in sight, he takes out the driver. He then aims his gun at Vigo, who is then forced to reveal that Yosef is hidden in a Brooklyn safe house. John then decides to leave him be at the safe house. We see Yosef inside a room playing video games with one of his mercenaries. The area surrounding him is covered by multiple teams and multiple snipers. As they all check in, we see that John also checks in. He takes the unconscious man's sniper rifle and begins firing at will with deadly precision. Yosef takes off, and simultaneously his getaway vehicles erupt in flames. He takes off running, but John finally catches up to him and shoots him in the stomach and then in his head without any hesitation. After John's revenge has been satisfied, he thanks Marcus for helping him out. But little do they know that Perkins discovers the two of them communicating. She reports her findings to Vigo, and in response he orders his henchmen to trap Marcus inside his house. The scene then cuts to Vigo calling John and elaborating to him that Marcus was subdued for failing to complete his job. As they attack him and are about to finish him, he puts up a last stand and takes out a few men, but is fatally shot by Perkins. Vigo then heads to a helicopter that will transport him out of the city. The plan is for John to come to Marcus's house, where Perkins will ambush him. But she is summoned to a meeting with Winston, the proprietor of the Continental Hotel. They meet up, and Winston informs her that she has violated Continental's rules, resulting in the revocation of her membership as well as her life. Upon discovering Marcus's lifeless body, John sets out on a mission to absolutely kill Vigo and everything that he stands for. He punches his car and spots Vigo and his men en route to their helicopter and tries to ram his car into them. Vigo orders Avi to take out John, but John's vehicle collides with one SUV, making it swerve and go overboard. As they play bumper cards with each other, John pulls an amazing move which manages to crash Vigo's car into a pole. The Russians then start pouring out of the SUV, but he instinctively uses his car as a shield and battering ram, ending off all of his assailants. Avi personally gets out of the car and tries to do something, but he too gets killed. Vigo then suddenly rams his SUV into John's car, but he manages to escape before the car goes overboard. With both vehicles out of the picture, the two have a proper Western standoff and drop their guns. It's time to get dirty, and they both engage in a fierce rain-soaked hand-to-hand combat. It's quite an even match until Vigo pulls out a knife, but John uses the blade to his advantage, allowing it to hit him, which he then uses his stomach to leverage and break Vigo's arm. He then plunges the knife into Vigo's traps. They sit for about 1 minute as Vigo cannot believe John done all of this for a dog. John then walks off, leaving him to die. The scene then cuts back to the beginning, with John still bleeding out but determined to keep going after seeing the video of Helen. He stops at a dog shelter to tend to his wound. He also ends up a pit bull before heading home.